There is growing pressure now on the former Qantas boss Alan Joyce to front an inquiry into the federal government's decision to block additional Qatar Airways flights into the country. The Senate will today vote on a motion to summon the airline veteran back to Australia to face questions over his alleged involvement in the decision. And joining me now is Leader of the Nationals, Bridget McKenzie. Thanks so much for your time, Bridget. So why do you want Alan Joyce back here exactly, and what power do you have to get him here?
Well, it's great to be with you, Laura. Today the Senate will vote to reinstate the committee to hear directly from Alan Joyce about why Qantas continues to receive preferential treatment from the Albanese government, why, when under his CEO period, the frequent flyer points were devalued for Australian customers, why staff were sacked, why he thought it was an okay thing to pocket over $500 million worth of COVID, flight credits from loyal customers. So there's a whole raft of issues that the Senate wants to pursue with Mr Joyce. These are legitimate and serious questions, and it's time he head home to front up to the Australian Senate on behalf of the Australian people. Because all the crumbs of evidence that our inquiry has heard lead to only three people knowing why the protection racket for Qantas is being run. That's the Prime Minister, Minister King, or Alan Joyce. And so today is a real test for the Labor Party on whether they will continue to run a protection racket for him or ensure that the Australian people, through their senators, get a chance to really ask questions of their former CEO of Qantas.
But he's no longer CEO, as you point out. So what is this about? Is this about punishing Alan Joyce, or is this about gleaning information that might be helpful for the Australian people going forward?
Well, the Australian people rightfully are shocked and appalled by the behaviour of our once much loved national carrier, Qantas. Illegally sacking workers, as I said, devaluing frequent flyer credits, can't ensure that planes actually take off and land on time and that your bag arrives at the other end that you do. And there is a very cosy political and personal relationship between Qantas and particularly Alan Joyce and the Prime Minister and this government.
But my point is he's no longer CEO, so why don't you get Vanessa Hudson in front of this Senate inquiry, and ask her what the plans are going forward?
Well, Laura, we did have Ms Hudson. Yeah. When we asked questions about what the quid pro quo was between the government and Qantas around setting up the Yes campaign, planes, etc., and the fact that this government has continually protected Qantas from competition by rejecting the Qatar Airways application, but also ruling aviation out of their competition review, and not acting on the Peter Harris slot review, which would actually improve cancellation and delays out of Sydney by Qantas. So the government at every step is not doing anything to actually solve the aviation interests of Australian travellers. And it is Alan Joyce, as I said, who has the answers to these questions, and that is why we'll be pursuing him.
Okay, so you think that if he fronts an inquiry now, he's unshackled by being a current CEO, so he might dump on the Labor government?
Well, answering questions to a Senate inquiry, you need to actually front up with the answers and be honest and truthful. If you don't, you'll be found in contempt of the Senate, and there are serious penalties for being held in contempt. The Senate could attach to a motion of contempt jail time, financial implications, etc. So it's a serious matter, Laura, because the Senate's role is to hold executive government to account on behalf of the Australian people. And the way Qantas has treated its loyal customers, its staff and its shareholders has been appalling. And you've seen the exit parachutes all across the joint. That's why this guy needs to rock up and answer serious questions that we're asking on behalf of the Australian people. And Labor needs to actually allow the Senate to do its work instead of continuing to run a protection racket.
Okay, well, let us know how you go. Thanks so much for your time, as always.